Nice, pleasure to meet you. You're the first Futurist-in-Chief I've met in my life.
I think I'm the first one I've ever met as well.
Yeah? So you're the first one. Can you please explain us what Dubai Future Foundation is doing? What you're focused on?
So Dubai Future Foundation is a wholly owned government foundation. So we're semi-governmental in that respect because we have private sector on our board, we work with state and federal government and also private sector partners around the world. And our job is pretty simple, right? Our job is to help understand and prototype the solutions which are going to create the industries, government and economies of tomorrow. Right?
It doesn't sound that it is simple.
Well, the description is simple, right?
Okay.
But actually what's interesting about this approach is, when you're trying to do something new, you have to do it in new ways. One of my favorite American poets, Audre Lorde, has this quote, you can't break the master's house with the master's tools, right? Now we're not trying to break houses, we're trying to build houses, but we have to take a new approach to the new challenges that we're facing in order to be effective and get different outcomes. And that's why we're able to work with designers and technologists and do lots of experiments as a means of developing the information we need to create effective policies and investment strategies that will help us get to this vision. But the days of best practices are over, right? You can't look to other places for solutions for the ethics of synthetic biology or how to govern artificial intelligence. Really, there are no other solutions. We have to create them collectively together, and the best way to do that, we believe, is through design-based experiments, real action-oriented activities.
Can you give us some examples? What projects are you working on right now?
Sure. Everything that we do starts from trying to build a conversation around this, a sort of a relatively intelligent conversation around this with many members of society. So let's take blockchain, for example. When we started paying
it's a hot topic.
A very hot topic, We've been paying attention to Bitcoin and blockchain for the last 4 years, back when it was this tiny little niche esoteric thing. And as it grew a little bit larger, we thought, all right, what benefit might this have for the world? So we started getting together the banks and the technologists and the designers and the entrepreneurs and the startups and some of the customers to just simply have conversations, right? What is blockchain? How might this impact our lives in a good way or a bad way? And after beginning to develop a shared language, we started developing pilot projects. And because of our position, we focus on technologies which we like to call pre-legal or pre-market. And blockchain is an interesting one. 3 years ago, nobody really knew if this was safe to buy cryptocurrencies. Is it legal to do blockchain deployments? So, our job is to sort of provide a test bed for these things in a way which we can regulate and monitor and regulate, but encourage innovation and experimentation. So out of these pilot projects and out of this council, we had a whole series of successes that led to the Dubai blockchain strategy, which commits the government of Dubai to having 100% of its government transactions on blockchain by 2020. So that was launched about 1.5 years, 2 years ago now. We're about 2/3 of the way through that transformation. And once we get to that target, that's a sort of fundamental redesign of the way bureaucracy works, which enables private sector really start to add value and create new services in a fundamentally new way, right? It all began with a series of conversations and demonstrations and tests that provide a better understanding of what this technology can and can't do, more clear vision for what the potential goals might be, and then doing them actually through action as opposed to just research.
Maybe you can give us one more example. I've read about an AI solution for Dubai citizens.
So we have a lot of AI work. In fact, one of my bosses is the Minister of Artificial Intelligence. I think he might be the only Minister of Artificial Intelligence in the world.
You're always the first.
His Excellency Omar Al-Alama, a fantastic guy, extremely intelligent and doing a lot of very, very, very important work around trying to look at what role can government play in the artificial intelligence industry when it is not the main innovator, right? So a lot of the fundamental technological and applied innovations coming out of AI are being done in the existing centers of research, China, Stanford, MIT, Silicon Valley, France, the UK, other places, here in Poland as well. So we don't want to compete with that, right? It would be silly to try to replicate these centers of research, but what we can do as government is try to establish these partnerships, try to develop pilot projects which help us develop the language and the applications around, say, for example, sharing of data, providing accessibility to healthcare data, privacy data, transportation data, the things which only a state can do, but in a way that's safe and responsible and mature, that accelerates the application of AI, but also helps us learn the answers to the questions we need to ask in order to effectively regulate it beforehand. So I think the UAE is unique in the sense that it is both very forward-looking, has the benefit of extraordinarily progressive leadership, quite stable leadership, but very action-oriented. And it's trying to really create these new sectors through experimentation and through design, but doing so with partners around the world.
And can you scale up those projects you design in Dubai?
Absolutely. I mean, Dubai is the gateway to half of the world's population. You know, literally half the world's population is within an 8-hour flight of Dubai. All of North Africa, Europe, East Europe, South Asia, East Asia, you know, everything comes through Dubai. It is the hub of the rest of the world, if you will. And in that sense, it has a unique competitive advantage because 90% of the flights, of the people on the flights from Dubai to Rio are Chinese businessmen doing business. So it's a chance to test things out at a small and manageable scale. First we tested the Dubai level, then we tested the national level, and then if it makes sense, it becomes a gateway to the rest of the world.
So we were meeting in Krakow.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful city.
Beautiful city.
Growing all the time. Do you think each big city needs a foresight unit like yours?
I think that the only way which cities and countries are going to be able to understand and participate in the trends that are shaping our future is through a combination of research and action. And the most effective way to do that we have found is to do so in partnership with private sector, so sort of semi-government organizations like the Dubai Future Foundation that had a little bit more flexibility to try things out, to test things, to move fast, to develop experiments in a safe way. So if every city had a future foundation, or every country had a future foundation, then you'd really be able to have these sandboxes to test things out in a way which is going to ensure that you find what your unique value proposition is. You know, not everyone's going to want to be a Stanford or a Silicon Valley, but you might be able to be a regional creative hub. You might be extremely good at telling a story in a way that resonates to the 100 million people within your market space, right? So the only way to really figure that out is through testing and experimentation. And a foundation like the Future Foundation, or perhaps like Impact', right, is a very effective way of doing that.
There's one more question I would like to ask you. It's about the Museum of the Future you're opening next year.
Yeah, it's a project that's dear to my heart. The museum has actually, in a funny way, I mentioned in my presentation, we lead with stories, we lead with designs and experiences. That helps build a common understanding of what the potential of these tools and technologies are and get people excited by them, right? You know, it's the days of people getting excited by PowerPoints and policy reports are over. But if you can touch an example of it, if you can interact with it, then you understand it better and more rapidly, and you might actually want what you see. So we've been doing this through a series of temporary exhibitions for the last 5 years that leads to most of our project and policy work. And all this is being formalized and concentrated in the Museum of the Future, which is opening in Dubai in end of 2019, December 2019. And it's going to be, we hope, the world center for experimental futures, inspirational, transformational prototypes, and a way for people to get involved and share their opinion.
Thank you very much for this chat.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.